Each year, to celebrate Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, the BBC invites me to make a film. This year, I've decided to put my faith as a believer in God on the line, publicly, on television. Why do this? Because faith, especially on the High Holy Days, requires nothing less than total honesty. And faith is under siege these days from atheists and skeptics. I'll expose my faith to challenge from 4 of Britain's cleverest and most engaging critics of religion. Writer Howard Jacobson attacks religion as too bogged down by rules and regulations. Philosopher Alain de Botton doesn't believe that any one religion can be the true faith. Scientist Colin Blakemore insists that science makes religion redundant. And Professor Lisa Jardine maintains that human suffering undermines faith in God. In putting my faith in God on the line, can I get closer to understanding what faith is? The novelist Howard Jacobson was brought up in a non-Orthodox Jewish family. He's upset by the rules and rituals of Jewish faith that, to me, are an essential part of our religious practice.
I'm just not comfortable at all with any kind of religious practice. I don't mind watching it. I don't mind, I'll blunder into a mass and think that's a wonderful spectacle, but no thank you. And I'll feel the same at the great Jewish high holy days when they blow the shofar and the melancholy of Jewish liturgy moves me a lot. But the business of what I eat, the business of what I wear, the whole business of, the minutiae of a religious life doesn't suit me. And I also don't like to see it.
Well, I think that you're coming at it in that kind of way that the couple do when the husband says, I deal with the big things, she deals with the little things. I deal with world peace and global climate change, and she deals with the little things like where our kids go to school. I mean, it's a very, very strange idea that God only worries about the big things. God is in the details. I think religion is in the details.
The devil's in the detail, Chief Rabbi. What's so crazy about it is I think God loses his sonority, his grand dignity. The God that speaks to Job out of the whirlwind is the frightening God I like. I will respond to the idea of a frightening God. I don't want that God then caring if I had a bacon sandwich for breakfast. I don't want him to worry about that. Not only because I think his mind should be on bigger things, but because I think it shouldn't matter what I have for breakfast.
Well, I think that religion is, or Judaism is, the poetry of the prosaic. It's about taking that big idea and actually translating it into everyday life.
It's not just that we make it sacred. We fall out with one another. We argue over it. We erect within our own faith sects because of it.
Why should God not be part of our daily routine? Why don't we need a regular exercise
because he gets
of the
lost
Spirit?
in it. He gets lost in it. And we forget him. And those who care about those things, it's very easy for them to be ungodly.
There are other ways of finding your way to God. There is no one way. But I do think that deep, abiding passion, that love affair, tempestuous, between us and God, with its difficult moments and its internal rows, that is the drama of the Jewish spirit. And my goodness me, I feel lifted by it. I feel privileged to be part of it, even if it gives me pain, and I'm sorry it gives you some.
Well, and love affairs, as we all know, can be very unhappy things. And believing in the Jewish God, it can be a heartbreaking experience for the people, and it can be a desolating experience for the person.
I don't think the Bible thinks love is easy at all, because love can be painful and it can give rise to anger and recrimination. But nonetheless, that is, to me, what Judaism is about.
And this God with whom you describe our love affair, are you sure he's there?
Well, you know that I believe that faith isn't certainty. Faith is the courage to live with uncertainty. Judaism is a refusal to give way to despair. And that's why I stake my life on that hope that the call God gave us at the beginning of history was the call worth following.
Can you love a Jew who says to you, I've had it with Jewish self-righteousness, I have just had it, I'm out of there, I'm out of the faith, and I am out of the Jewish God?
Of course I could love such a Jew. I once thought you were such a Jew, Howard, and I love you. I've got to be blunt.
And I've disappointed you.
Not at all. You know, we're still, there you are, forcing me to look at the flaws in my own belief system. And I honestly believe if we don't love the people who oppose everything we stand for, so long as they're willing to talk civilly and listen, if we fail to love them, something's going to go wrong with us. We are all part of the script. And that means that that person is, in ways that I may not fully realize yet, part of the Jewish story.
Which may be no story, and there may be no script.
There may be no story and there may be no script, but you take the risk of writing stories. And I will continue to take the risk to encourage you to live them as well.
It was a more open debate than I expected. What did Howard take away from our discussion?
What surprised me was how open he was to some of my criticism of, not of God, but of Jewish ritual and some of the arguments that Jews, very punishing arguments, that Jews have with one another. He's in a very difficult position. Everybody knows he's in a very difficult position. And I thought he was open about some of those difficulties and accepting of the problems. I was pleased that he did not sweep some of those problems under the carpet.
Howard.
Terrific, as always. As always.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
I agree that ritual sometimes descends into routine.
Bye, Howard.
But any great achievement requires routine. Writing a novel means writing a little bit each day, and so having a relationship with God requires praying each day. But there's a bolder claim made against my faith in God, that it's not so much ritual that's wrong as the idea of truth in a single faith. My next guest is the writer and philosopher Alain de Botton. Like many people in this country, Alain was brought up without religion. Unlike Howard, he quite likes ritual. But what Alain wants is the freedom to cherry-pick the best ideas from various faiths. It's a very fashionable position, but I believe it doesn't work.
I think that every religion has a certain amount of wisdom in it. There are things that one finds in different religions that are good. And in that sense, I look back to the 19th century when people like the Unitarians and others would essentially scan through the world religions asking, what is good here? And in a way, that's a very impious thing to do. I mean, because really what you're saying is, I'm going to pick and mix. Now that word, that phrase, pick and mix, is one of the most pejorative that's thrown at modern atheists who are interested in religion. You're just wanting to pick and mix.
That's
I say
heresy. The original word heresis, heresy, probably means pick and mix, doesn't it?
Right. Yes.
Believing what you choose.
That's right. That's right, believing what you choose. And yet, I'm proud to be a picker and a mixer. I think there are certain things in Catholicism which are fantastic. One doesn't find those in Judaism. At the same time, things in Judaism.
For instance?
That, in Catholicism. Well, I think that confession is a fascinating ritual, that idea of the one-on-one contact.
Well, look, I love Beethoven's string quartets and Miles Davis's jazz Simon and Garfunkel, and I just try and think of putting together a piece of music whose first movement is Beethoven and then Miles. It's a mess. It doesn't work as bricolage or a fruit cocktail or anything of the kind. You know,
but why not? When you think of literature,
yeah.
well, that's precisely what we do with literature. We read, Jane Austen sometimes, and at other moods we'll read Schopenhauer, and at other times we'll read, Gibbon, and we'll change, and we'll do precisely that. What's wrong with doing that religiously?
You read Jane Austen, you put it back on the shelf, and it makes no further demand of you until you feel like reading it again. But you read it, a sacred text, and you put it back on the shelf. It's still making a demand of you. It's saying this is a truth to be lived, and you can't just put it back on the shelf. And that is the difference between religion and culture.
My view as an atheist is, why am I forced into this uncomfortable situation that either I'm a believer, at which point I have to do all these things that I can't quite buy, or I have to just sort of sit at home and read the newspaper or something. Why can't I have the best of religion without religion? I know that's a deeply impious question, but it's the question that animates me.
So imagine you have a secular New Year at which you and friends of Alain de Botton all get together once a year and apologize to each other, and it'd be great. It will last for 5 or 6 years. You wouldn't be able to hand it on to your children.
Why not?
You wouldn't be
Why not?
able to spread it any more widely, because matters of the spirit live on the basis of obligation, or what we call, on the basis of the Bible, command. Unless you hear a command, an obligation that comes from beyond you and your immediate group, you will not be able to generate sustainable ritual. Supposing I said to you, Alain, let's meet and agree. You keep the rituals, and I have faith that one day, through those rituals, you will rediscover faith.
I suppose I would say to that, I'm not interested in rediscovering faith. Now, your view would be, doesn't matter. The other thing I would say is, many bits of the ritual I like, and some bits I don't.
You are talking about an openness to some religious ideas, if not to religious belief, that I find refreshing and fascinating. And I'd love to see how it develops in your children when they grow up.
No doubt they'll be coming to you. Yeah. Good, thank you.
I think trying to create a kind of pick and mix of the best bits of the different religions will be very hard. Religion involves a strong personal commitment. What I have learned from Alain is that a religion can speak to someone who doesn't share its beliefs. In an age of rapid change, religion is our great treasury of the wisdom of the past. At least Howard and Alain see some point in religion. Some critics say it no longer has any. My next guest is the distinguished scientist Professor Colin Blakemore. He believes the rational explanations provided by science make religious faith obsolete. It's one of the most dangerous attacks that can be leveled at faith in God.